that's what makes the Cup Series what it is, and makes it so much fun and so much of a challenge.
You know, the concern for me, or looking from my eyes, what their concern would be that it hasn't been the same Chevrolet team or the same guy.
Brad Keselowski 28th in points, Chris Buescher 26th in points. Both of those teams made the playoffs last year.
You know, you never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just, struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
It's tough, and sorry for it being bouncy the roads here. It's like if you have, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it, right? So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it.
Hi, Bo.
Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
Truthfully, even as a company, I think it was, very head-scratching why at the beginning all four of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
Welcome on to the Backstretch. I'm News 5's Heather Williams, and we are off to the desert in Phoenix this week. NASCAR's first foray onto the short tracks. It's not exactly your traditional short track, though. It's on the longer side for short tracks. It's flat, more like a Martinsville than a Bristol, but it's going to be another milestone, another test for the drivers as they try to figure out, who are the contenders and who are the pretenders this year. It seems for sure that Chevys are contenders. They've won every Cup race this year, every truck race this year, and all but one, two of the three Xfinity Series races this year going into this weekend. What do Toyota and Ford have? Well, Fords have been very fast. Joey Logano has grabbed the front row in the two of the first three races. The third race going to Michael McDowell, another Ford, with Joey starting behind him in the front row. So I feel like a lot of the pressure this week is on Toyota. What does Toyota have? How can they be competitive? How can they show that they've got a little something for everyone this year? I think that's going to be a big challenge this week as they head to Phoenix. Toyota are generally pretty good on the short tracks, so less concerned about the aero and stuff for the new manufacturers, but I think they've got some things they've got to figure out. So I'll be really interested to see what happens there. For the show today, our guest is Daniel Hemric. Daniel is getting his second chance in NASCAR after dropping down to Xfinity for a couple of years. He's coming back up to the Cup Series this year, or is back in the Cup Series this year for RFK Racing. So we're going to catch up with Daniel, see how his season's going, talk to him about a few things. Always a great interview when I talk to Daniel. He's always so happy. He's always so appreciative for the opportunities he has. So can't wait to share my conversation with him, which truthfully was done last week. So it was before the race in Vegas, but pretty much everything is still topical for what is going on this season. And then as always, we'll catch up with the crew chief, Chris Carrier. We're going to talk about Chevy's dominance. We're going to talk about Rajah Caruth's big win. We're going to talk about what you can expect this week at Phoenix. So I'm going to quit talking. We're going to start with Chris. We are joined now by our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who's also the crew chief of the number 75 Food Country Truck in the CrossFit Truck Series. So Chris, Kyle Larson dominates at Vegas. Chevy has now won all three Cup Series races, as well as all of the races in the top three series, except for the Xfinity race at Vegas. They are dominating right now. So is there cause for concern for Ford and Toyota at this point in the season?
Heather, I cannot say, definitely not. I cannot say that because, it's early in the season. We've run, just three races, and two of them have been at, quote, a speedway track, the other one at a very fast 1.5 mile track. But, the concern for me, or looking from my eyes, what their concern would be that it hasn't been the same Chevrolet team or the same guy. Come on, we all know that Kyle Larson, there's going to be some races he's going to dominate because he's just that good. and I think he would do that if he was in a Hudson Hornet, or a taxi cab out here. But Trackhouse has been pretty strong. Kyle Busch has been pretty strong. So it is all those bow tie Chevrolets that are like, okay, we're pretty strong here now. In the Xfinity Series, it's been basically the Austin Hill show, for a couple of those races. But I think that the Ford and Toyota guys are going to be looking and saying, oh my gosh, they're going to be lobbying for like, hey, give us a little bit of something here to NASCAR. So, but it's early in the season, and there's some different type racetracks coming up, starting with Phoenix and then Bristol and so on. So, there's time for the other makes to rebound, but Chevrolet's they've come out of the box pretty hot.
We don't really talk about the Truck Series races much here. We talk about your team from time to time, but I can't really go without marking a historic win last week for another Chevy driver in Rajah Caruth. He joins Bubba Wallace and Wendell Scott as the only 3 African Americans to win on any of the major series. Big win for the sport. Give me your thoughts on the win and on Rajah, because I know you've met him a few times.
I've met him. I've got to be pretty good friends with the young man starting last year, and it was kind of a coincidental thing, but we just kind of connected as friends. And I tell you, Heather, he is a really good young man. He's a good, I don't want to say kid, but to me he's a kid because I'm 3 times his age just about. But he's just got a good personality. He has a good outlook. That's what I like. He's got a good outlook on what he's doing. He's very appreciative. He's thankful. He knows he's in a good team. He's got a great crew chief. He's got a lot of things going for him, and he's got a lot of opportunity here. And in my mind, he's making the best of that opportunity. And I can tell you that was a very popular win among other drivers and the teams and stuff. They like him. He's a good dude, man. He's just so cool. And this isn't going to be the last one. This is the start of something pretty good for him. And I'm very happy for him. And I think, obviously, it's good for the sport. I noticed after the race when he got out of the truck and he stood up and and was making his victory stuff and everything, and just very happy. I heard a lot of crowd noise, and it wasn't boos. And to me, that kind of warmed my heart, because I saw the kid drive a great race. He did. He came back. He got down there a little bit at one time and came back. He beat some really good race drivers, including Kyle Busch. And everybody was happy about it because, hey, here's another winner. Here's a different guy. Now there's some more people who have somebody to kind of connect to and follow. He's going to go up the ladder, so just stay tuned, and there's going to be more to be proud of him about.
So Chevys are at the top of the hill right now, at the top of the mountain. On the other end is RFK Racing. Brad Keselowski, 28th in points. Chris Buescher, 26th in points. Both of those teams made the playoffs last year.
Yep.
You said that Fords and Toyotas don't have reason to panic yet, but does RFK have a little reason to be concerned?
I think I don't know that they're not on the panic button just yet. They're not like the oh gosh, we got to start throwing. We just got throwing darts in the air or shooting into the bushes here trying to find our target. Look, they've got good equipment. They've got good people. They've got good crew chiefs. They proved that last year. Now, over the winter, all these people just didn't grow dumb. And Brad and Chris Buescher didn't forget how to drive. To me, they've just got to regroup, block out all the negative, focus on what they know they can do, and go forward and do it one race at a time. And I think they'll be fine. I really do. Now, how all in the off-season rule changes affected these cup cars, and which it helped more and which it helped less, and what it did about this and what it did, I really don't know, Heather. And I'm not so sure right now anybody really knows. But maybe there's a little bit of time, a bit of reason to say, hey, maybe we need a little bit. The other side of that is the fact that Joey Logano's qualifying record so far has kind of shot down any theory that the Fords don't have any speed.
Right.
I mean, you can't argue that, hey, they don't have any speed. So I wouldn't write off RFK Racing at all. Brad Keselowski or Chris Buescher. They're proven quantities. Their teams are proven quantities. They're going to be competitive. They're going to win some races along the way. And I think by mid-season we'll be talking about, hey, they really made a great comeback here. We'll see.
Well, it starts this week at Phoenix. We've had 3 big tracks so far. We go to our first short track, flat track at Phoenix. What are the challenges at this track compared to what they've done for the first 3 weeks?
Well, they're the first 3 weeks they weren't off the throttle very much at all. It's pretty much wide open all those places, even Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a little bit harder because the wind was the biggest issue at Las Vegas that everybody was dealing with over a bumpy racetrack. Phoenix is completely different. It's a 1 mile that's really it's kind of a short track on steroids, kind of. Not a lot of banking anywhere on that racetrack, and the fact that it's not symmetrical anywhere. It's nothing about it like it's I don't know what it reminds me of. It's both ends of the racetrack, turn 1 and 2 versus turn 3 and 4, there's a little bit different banking. The apex of the corner, the radius of each corner, the length of each corner is completely different than the other. The only normal thing about that racetrack is the back straightaway, which is kind of just straight, flat straightaway from turn 2 to turn 3. But even the front straightaway is a great big dog leg, and it's not symmetrical. It comes out of turn 4, and you start turning, and somewhere in there you cross the start-finish line. And then after that, you're still turning, and the racetrack really doesn't widen out, but there's a great big space down here that everybody runs off of, and they go into turn 1, 5, 6, 7 wide, into a narrowed up turn, and not much banking there to catch, and people run down on the apron in turn 3, turn 4, and run up all the way up against the wall. It's really crazy, and for a crew chief and the race engineers, it's difficult because you don't, okay, which end of the racetrack do we focus on? And what I like about it, to me, it's one of those tracks that it's like Darlington. It's a racer's racetrack, because there's no way that you can have a car set up, a chassis set up that's perfect everywhere. That's just not going to happen. Darlington, Pocono, places like that, you've got to get it as good as you can in the areas, or try to get it as good as you can in the areas that you think are the most important, or the things that you know how to deal with. And then somewhere along the way, the driver's just got to make it up. He's got to man up and just say, okay, I'm going to take what I got. I'll be good down here in this turn. I'll be good over here in that turn. The rest of it's probably not, the car's not going to be perfect, but I've just got to figure out how to get through there better than the rest of them.
So let me start with this. You're on your second go round in the Cup Series. What's it been like to transition back up to Cup this time around with Colleague?
Yeah, it's a great question. Obviously, it's been a journey for sure. 5 years worth trying to get back here, and obviously that journey started with having a chance to drive Colleague Racing the Xfinity cars over the last 2 years, leading to this opportunity at the Cup level. And man, I know you tend to operate just human nature off of past experience, right? Like no matter what, and having a chance to go through it the first time, understand how big of a leap it was from the Xfinity garage to the Cup garage, getting to know the people, building relationships on the Cup side, and then be removed from that. I think this go around has really made it a lot smoother of a transition, right? Because I stayed within the same organization, got back to the Cup level, but yet was able to kind of rekindle those relationships, kind of tap into those relationships that I used back at the Cup side many years ago. And I think it's just made it comfortable for me, to be honest with you. So very grateful to be back here, obviously with Colleague Racing, with Matt Colleague, Chris Rice, and yeah, just have a chance to continue this journey of whichever way it takes me.
So the start to this season is so unique because of the back-to-back super speedway races. Does it make you panic a little bit less because these races are so crazy that because you've been on the Cup Series before? I mean, I feel like a true rookie who had, let's face it, there's only been like 3 guys that had 2 good races in the season. Everybody else has had issues. But does it make you be able to deal with that a little bit better the second time around?
Oh yeah, no doubt. Like I said, so much has changed for me from a personal side and professional side over the last 5 years. And, when you go through the grind of the Cup Series one time and you understand how much it takes, from a preparation standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from a physical standpoint, and just in general the race team, like what it takes in order to get through an entire season. There's gonna be so many days that are not going the way you want them to, but like understanding physically and mentally how to handle those situations and how to make the most of those days, as we've seen. Like I said, only 2 or 3 guys have had uneventful days throughout the first 2 weeks of the year, let alone knowing we got 36 more ahead of us. And that's what makes the Cup Series what it is, and makes it so much fun and so much of a challenge. But yeah, I've enjoyed where I'm at from a headspace perspective, and just gosh, I mean, I remember there's many days just hoping you could strap back in on Sundays and race with the best in the world on a weekly basis, and very thankful to be doing that. Yeah, and just know that every week with this particular car, a lot of guys, a lot of race teams are a lot closer, and they bring into the fold. So those days where you may not be having your day, I think it matters even that much more as far as going and trying to still maximize your day, both on the racetrack and how it affects you off the racetrack, and finding a good balance between all that.
So I've heard guys say this. Does a season? I mean, I know they pay points. I know Daytona is the biggest race in the world, but does the season really kind of start this week with the West Coast swing? Because these are more like the races that most of the year is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, there is some merit to that. I mean, I would also say, though, that, we return to both those other places again, right? So you got to be able to build your notebook at Daytona, at Atlanta. In this first couple of weeks, like you said, I mean, gosh, we're going to return to a lot of these racetracks within the playoffs. I mean, we got to be prepared, and we got to be doing the things that we know we can do good now, and look forward to, once you leave these weekends, treat the debrief sessions that, following the next couple of weeks on the West Coast as critical moments to pivot your race team, good, bad, or indifferent, is what you need to do better. And yeah, we put these as high intense moments these weekends. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, though, right? Like having a chance to go to these racetracks for the first time, see where as us as a Chevrolet as a manufacturer stands, see where the other manufacturers stand at on a 1.5-mile racetrack, and we get to see the same thing the following week at Phoenix, right? Like, what is this new aero package going to do? How's it going to race? How can we work on our racecraft and our race teams and ourselves as drivers to maximize whatever it is that we have? So yeah, it's a bit of the garage says that the season starts here, but gosh, I feel like I've been working the last 5 years as if it's been 5 years of a season trying to get back here in general. So just excited to see where we stack up.
Bob Pockris tweeted today that they're having teams prepare for the wet, possibly at Bristol, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. Obviously, we're not going to run in the pouring down rain, but we haven't tried this at any short tracks. How do you think that this would work if we had to try this at a short track?
Gosh, I really have not put much thought in that, to be honest with you. I don't probably have a great answer for you, but I know I was sitting on the couch watching the truck race last year before the Xfinity race the next day, watching them put on rain tires and run on a damp racetrack that actually was pretty compelling to watch from a strategy standpoint. When you put dry tires on and all that stuff, I mean, I know they've done a wet weather test at Bristol in preparation of what if, can we do this or can we not? I think it's, no matter what, at the end of the day, it's trying to get the show in, right? Trying to get the show broadcasted for our fans in a timely manner, and not having to sit around and wait for racetracks to dry, right? It's tough when it's not raining, right? The rain's come, the rain's gone, and we still got to wait, hours on end to dry these racetracks. If we can do it with the vehicles and get us back to a green flag racing standpoint and still get the fans a show, why not? I mean, I'm all about it. So obviously it's going to be more of a challenge at some racetracks than others, Bristol being probably a pretty big challenge in that perspective, but I think it can be done. But it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves, how the conversations evolve over the next couple of weeks and months. But yeah, I mean, NASCAR, obviously they see a window, they think we can do it. They're used to making bold decisions, and we're used to backing them up, and that's why the series has been so successful.
As far as your transition to the Cup Series with Colin, I'm curious because Colin has had so much success on the Xfinity Series level, right? The Cup Series has been kind of up and down. And I see people compare, and I think of this because I see people a lot of times comparing like 2311 to Trackhouse to you guys, because you all kind of roughly came into the Cup Series at the same time. But at the same time, I feel like the comparisons are unfair because Trackhouse kind of took over an existing team. 2311 had that very tight alliance with Gibbs Racing. What is kind of your guys' outlook on building this program? Because obviously you're going to build at a different pace than they are because you come from a different place. So what's your guys' outlook as you try to build this Cup Series program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I support kind of where your head is at them. You know, we've for sure, right? Yeah, they came in roughly the same time, but you know, with Trackhouse roughly taking over, you know, successful established organization like Ganassi was, right? Be able to take that over, a bit turnkey, if you will, right, with personnel and cars and whatnot. And then you look at the side from the 2311, right, where they're coming in with a lot of folks from JGR going over there to start it. Denny had lived inside the JGR organization, understood how it flowed and how it worked. So, yeah, then you got Colleague Racing, right? You got a young owner, Matt Colleague, who's just barely 50 years old and is a growing businessman, entrepreneur, and just I'm thankful that he loves racing for sure. But even he was prepped and understands the fact of what a grind the Cup Series was actually going to be compared to the Xfinity level. I know that's why they love to continue the Xfinity race, right? To give themselves a chance to win trophies and compete, you know, within that top 5 band on a regular basis. And that's what they love, right? Everybody loves to compete. Then there's the Cup Series, which is kind of like the growing child in the background where we know it's going to be a process. You know, going, to be honest with you, I mean, going and having top 20 days is what we have to do. And if we have an opportunity to have better days than that, we feel like we're prepared and we've worked to prepare to be ready to take advantage of those moments. But you know, this is a many year plan way down the road as far as where Colleague Racing wants to get to. I think us as a company, though, we have more and more depth every year. We've added within that depth even from 2023 to 24 on the Cup Series, and that's what you have to do. I mean, and then you have to prove yourself in general, right? Like in order to build depth and build people, whether it be drivers, engineers, crew chiefs, just interest in general, getting people to come work for your company, you got to show that you can do it. And we've had those moments, like you said. I mean, AJ's won 2 Cup races for the company, which is incredible, and hopefully we can add to that this year and kind of continue to build the depth. And that's what it's all about right now throughout these developing stages for Colleague Racing.
So for my final thought this week, I want to talk about short track racing. It's been a big topic of conversation since the next gen came into the sport because it hasn't been very good. Like the cars have struggled on the short tracks. They've made some changes to the aero package and hoping to improve the racing. We'll see how far that's come this week at Phoenix. But I want people to just take a breath, right? I want people to understand that passing is not supposed to be easy. These cars are not supposed to be easy to drive. And part of what has always made this sport entertaining for me is the fact that the races have all sorts of different outcomes, right? Was last week at Vegas a good race? Depends on who you are. If you're a Kyle Larson fan, it was a great race. If you're a fan of everybody else, maybe not so much. He stunk up the show. And that's an intermediate track where we've had some of the best racing since the next gen came into the garage. So my point is, not every race is going to be a winner, and not every race is going to be the finish at Atlanta. And that's okay, because if that was the norm, when it happened, it wouldn't be nearly as exciting as when it does. I still think this is a big week. I still think they have a lot to prove, a lot to show this week at Phoenix to see if the racing on the short tracks has gotten better. But I think we just need to give them a chance. I think we need to give the short track cars and the programs a little bit of a chance and enjoy them for what they are, which is another race week at the racetrack, right? So who could be mad for that? Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. I'll be back next week.